There he is.
The man, the myth, the legend himself.
There he is, my
The,
brother.
the, the man, the myth, the legend himself. How you doing, Bishop Omar?
Oh man, I'm fine, my brother. How are you, man?
Oh man, I'm phenomenal. Can't complain, man. God is good. That's all I can say.
Yeah, every time I see you, man, I'm following you now, and I'm looking at all the stuff you're doing, and the podcast. We're gonna talk about all that. But man, I am so proud and man, I so want you to do what you're doing in explosive ways because you may not know, but the world needs your voice right now, bro. You are very important, man.
Man, that means the world to me, man. And matter of fact, I'm gonna have you on the podcast hopefully soon here. I know you're busy. You're a busy man, but love to have you on the podcast, man. Because the conversations we're having on there are crazy, man. I had Leon. So Leon, if you guys are watching this right now, Leon Bishop Omar will be talking to him after. So I had him on a few weeks ago. Then I had a brother that had a life sentence in prison, and he got out after 22 years. And then the last episode, we had a woman who was human trafficked at age 13. And so she has a crazy story. Her name is Monica. I think she's on here today too. And there goes Artie. So yeah, Artie was on here. Shout out to you, Artie. So yeah, some phenomenal people, man.
Brother Ryan, first, if you guys don't know, this is Ryan Tillman. He has a great organization, Breaking Barriers. But let me just tell you who he is. He is a young police officer with a servant's heart, with a godly purpose, beautiful family, and he is a light to our country. He came to Dallas, and we did our Heal America Dallas, the most talked about clip of all the things that we did. We had it was great, was your conversation with Leon. That time, man, that whole servanthood, the way you framed it, man, it was very emotional. And so I could not go to Minneapolis without you. They was like, well, Bishop, who you bring? Fine, take off work. I got it.
Well, it's an honor, Bishop.
Oh, before we how are you? You good, COVID? You good? You straight?
Oh, we good over here, man. We are good. Just hanging in here. My kids got Muay Thai. I got them in Muay Thai, man, trying to keep them busy. But we solid over here, man. I got to make sure that we keep them moving.
All right. So you got them in Muay Thai. You got them going. Your wife is good. So family's good.
She's good, man. She's good. And, I just want to thank everybody, whoever's on here, if you're following us. Just thank you for all the support you give me, man, and really not necessarily me, but just my wife, because I mean she's the backbone to what I'm able to do. So this is a team effort, and it takes a strong backbone, and that's my wife. So shout out to her.
Yeah, Ryan, I have to say that what comes across whenever you talk, whenever I've seen the podcast and I've been watching it and looking at it and just marveling at it, is your faith. Tell me what role does faith play in what you do and how you do it as a police officer, as a public servant? How do you combine your faith?
So for me, so just a little bit about me, man. I grew up Catholic, and then when I went to college, I played football at UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And while I was there, I met a man by the name of Randall Cunningham. If you guys aren't familiar with who Randall Cunningham is is probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. So he actually led me to my faith in Christ, or to actual relationship, I'll say. He led me to a relationship with Christ while I was in college. And after that time in my life, I really understood what it was to have a relationship with God. And so moving forward, I had no aspirations of becoming a police officer. I actually was mistreated by police officers on many occasions. My family was. And so when I had the opportunity to become a police officer, I was like, man, I'm definitely not doing that. Like, I'm not about to work for the man. Like, I'm not about to be, pig. Like, that was my mentality. And then, but I got to praying because, at that time, like, I was like, man, I got to have a solid relationship with Christ. So I told Christ, me and him had a conversation, and it was one of those like, hey, if this is what you want me to do, open the door. If not, close that door. And so the door just flew open, and then I was still even kind of wavering, like, I don't know, God, I don't know if this is what you want me to do. And sure enough, like, I continued to move forward, and I went through the academy, went through training, and then that's when I realized, like, okay, God, this is what you want me to do. And so that's when I realized, like, as a police officer, I can't do this job without having Christ as my foundation, because the things we see, the things we do, the trauma we take, the criticism we take, the only thing that gives me peace at the end of the day is Christ. I'll tell you all a true story. This happened a few days ago. literally like 3 days ago, I went to a house and the call was, it was a drowning baby. So we pulled up there, and when I get there, sure enough, the mom was just started CPR on her baby that was turned over face down in the jacuzzi, and he was 1 year old. So me and my partners, we kick into action. They do the CPR, everything like that. And as I'm talking, you know, I'm looking at the dad, I'm looking at the mom, and they're just in shock, like, man, what is going on? And so before I left there, because they rushed the baby to the hospital, you know, the Holy Spirit's in my heart. He's like, hey, pray with the dad. So I'm like, all right, God, I'm not gonna miss this opportunity to pray. So I started praying with the dad before we left. And so the dad, after that, dad took off to the hospital. And then the dad texted me later on that night because I gave my phone number to keep me updated. And he sent me a picture of the baby that was smiling, and he said, you know, baby woke up singing Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and he got a smile on his face. But he said this situation forever changed my life. And I think a lot of that is because, you know, God is allowing me to move, and people are seeing not Ryan Tillman, but they're seeing Christ that lives within me. And so that's why I lead with Christ as my foundation, because that's what helps me be an honest police officer. That's what helps me be an honest servant. And also that's what helps me be a man of God.
You know, man, if you don't know, if you just tuned in, this is Ryan Tillman. This the story that he just told, which you just sent chills again of, that's wow, that's crazy. But that's your story. I told the story at one of my Sunday sermons about how you had to intervene when a guy had got called about hitting his wife, and you took him to jail.
Oh yeah.
And I said to people, man, your witness is never unnecessary, and you never know when that witness is a seed, and then you never know it's going to turn into a harvest. Man, you are just you're amazing in that way. You know, now, man, we know that right now, Brian, this whole idea of policing has been under fire, under siege now, because we're going into Minneapolis, and just so if y'all don't know, July 29th, he's coming to
I'll be there.
Yeah, man. And so this is you can't, you know, we going to the heart of it. This is real. You know, he going right into the middle of this action. And so this next generation policing, I've been playing that clip too. You said that I am taking it as a personal challenge to bring in a new type of policing, because, you know, it's been this whole deal about policing reform. It's been about how we can change how, you know, police qualified immunity and, you know, all of the policy reforms. So tell me where you are on this next iteration of policing. What do you say?
So first and foremost, we have to acknowledge the fact that policing doesn't come from, heroism. We have to acknowledge the fact that policing comes from some evil times in our history as a country. You know, you talk about slavery, slave patrols. We have to acknowledge the fact that there was a lot of police that were members of the Klans back in the day. We have to acknowledge the fact that there were police officers that were guarding podiums where people were giving racially motivated speeches. So we have to acknowledge, like, that's where our country has come. But we also, on the same hand, have to acknowledge that where we're at today with policing. You know, the mere fact that as an African American, I could be a police officer, go and change lives, go and pray with people that are kids that are drowning, go and be the freshest police officer out. I do say fresh because you ain't never going to see a police officer address his fresh. That's the mere fact that I can do all that is proof that we're changing. And so what we have to realize is that there is a need for policing. And so unfortunately right now, our country becomes so polarized. You're either on the left or you're the right, and we're trying to erase and eradicate the middle. But we have to live in the middle. And the reason we have to live in the middle is because living in the middle allows you to have empathy for the other side. And so if you're on the far left, you're not going to have empathy for the right. And if you're on the far right, you're not going to have empathy for the left, which is why it's so critical that we have that middle ground. So having that middle ground is the reason why we have to acknowledge that policing can't go anywhere, because there's a real true need for policing. There's a lot of evil. I saw a video the other day coming out of Detroit where there were some people in a restaurant, and this dude shot 4 people in there, killed 3 of them in front of everybody. And so there's a real evil spirit that is living inside our society right now. We know that as believers. And so that being said, well, policing isn't going to go anywhere. How can we do it better? And so I've come to the reality that we got to revamp our policing. We have to redo what it looks like. We have to rebrand it. So going back to college days, I was a business major. I minored in business and marketing. And so I'm like, man, we got to rebrand it. We got to be able to allow the youth to see themselves in policing. We got to be able to allow these young minorities these young, black kids, Hispanic kids, white kids, Asian kids, whatever, to see themselves in police officers. So I'm dedicated to rebranding what it looks like to be a police officer, but not just what it looks like, but what policing really is about. How to
Yeah.
lead with, I'm doing something that's called the Lead With series.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Lead With series is leading with love, leading with empathy, and leading with respect. Those are the three ways. If we lead with those three things, then you'll find your solutions. And so that's why I have a phrase that I always use, that I'm going to change the face of modern day policing. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Ryan, if anyone can do it, it's you, brother, because your passion is real and your heart is real, because you got to be vulnerable to say the stuff you're saying. Because I know some would not want to hear about the historical discrimination and the historical despicable practices that hurt citizens, especially black citizens. But it's also hopeful in that we can see a pathway, and the pathway is not a policy, it's individuals. You saying we got to change individuals, we got to have transformed people. We say only inspired people, and you are that, man. Let me ask you this. The humanity side of this issue is where I think that some of this is getting lost in the rhetoric, is the human side. You told a story about kneeling, and again, July 29, Minneapolis, Shiloh Temple. That's where we're going to be. 6 o'clock, we're going to be there. You got to come out. You want to hear. You want to hear, Ryan. I'm telling you. You'll know when you get there. But look, man, you talked about that time when you knelt, and it felt human. It felt like that you wanted to make a human connection, even though it was spiritual, and that you said you were kneeling because of your spiritual connection and servanthood. Is the humanity side of this being lost in kind of the arguments, or how do we bring it back? Because the thing that got us here beyond what we were doing in our own worlds is the George Floyd 8-minute 46 seconds knee on the neck. It is Ahmaud Arbery 74 days. It is Breonna Taylor. It's those things that we cannot forget. How do you keep the human side of this alive when you're dealing with so much of the policy and the thoughts and the rhetoric and the slogans and all of that? Tell me, how do you keep it human?
So one thing first we have to realize and acknowledge, again, this is going back to acknowledgement, is that we have to acknowledge the fact that we're all human beings. And so one of the biggest things I always talk about is that as police officers, what are we trying to do as police officers right now? You go talk to any police officer, they're going to tell you, man, we want people to see the humanity in it. They don't want us to see us for the badge and the gun, because a lot of people hate the badge and the gun. And so they're absolutely right. I truly believe that we have to see the human in law enforcement. But at the same time, if I'm asking you guys to see the human in law enforcement, I also have to exude the human in law enforcement. And so when you're talking about a story, and one of the things I talked about, and you guys will hear more about this when I go to Minneapolis, but they had this whole idea of kneeling and taking a knee, and it started when Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem. And then there's been all this controversy ever since he did that. Then there was controversy of, people taking knees in protest and whether or not officers should do it or not. And so in my eyes, everybody was looking at it from a humanistic approach. And so when you look at things from a humanistic approach, sometimes you also start to develop that pride as well, because we're human. So that pride was like, either I'm not taking a knee or I'm taking a knee because I want to prove to you guys that you guys are wrong. So, I was at my house, and one of the things when I don't have answers to things, I always try to get in tune with the spiritual side of things. And so I'm like, God, give me some spiritual lenses, so that way, maybe if I'm missing something, I can kind of look at it from a better place. So the spiritual lens was, Ryan, when you take a knee, when you ask your wife to marry her, you took a knee. Ryan, when you get down to pray at night, you take a knee and bow before me. So Ryan, why do you take a knee when you ask your wife to marry her? Why do you take a knee when you pray? And the reason I take a knee is because I'm dying to myself. I'm showing my humility to God. I'm showing my humility to my wife as my willingness to serve you. So Ryan, when you look at this knee as a police officer, what is your job description as an officer? Well, your job description is you're a public servant. Well, what's a servant? A servant is putting somebody else's needs before yourself. So by me, when that time came, and I prayed about this, I said, if the time comes that I need to take a knee, God, reveal yourself so that way I don't waver in my faith. And at that moment in time, God revealed himself. He said, this is your chance right here. So are you going to submit to me and do what I'm telling you to do? Or are you going to submit to what the people want you to do? So I never took a knee for people. I never took a knee because I wanted to make others feel good about themselves. I never took a knee because I wanted to just, try to develop a relationship with people. I took a knee because God told me, Ryan, you're a public servant and it's your responsibility to show an outward expression of humility and servanthood to the people on behalf of me. So that's why I took a knee. And if I had to do it over again, I would still do it. And you know what? There are some police officers that have said, "Oh, well, I don't bow before no man other than God." And my answer to them was like, well, that's what I was doing. I was bowing as an outward expression before God. It wasn't a bow before man. It had nothing to do with policing. It had everything to do with me showing you that I'm going to serve. You look in the Bible and you talked about when Jesus was washing the disciples' feet. If we really look at that, Jesus was the most powerful man to ever walk this earth. He was the Son of God. He was God in and of himself. So if he had the ability to wash the disciples' feet, who am I to say I can't take a knee as an outward expression that I'm going to serve you? So that's where I think sometimes we have to take a spiritual approach to things, or a spiritual lens, in order for us to have a different understanding on things. And that's why I love Leon so much, because Leon was shot 5 times by police officers. So the mere fact that he and I can have a discussion with each other, the mere fact that we can hug each other, the mere fact that I can tell Leon that I love him and that he loves me, that it takes a spiritual lens to do that. And so if we start doing that as people, if we start doing that as a country, that's where we're going to start to see the healing. So we talk about the Heal America tour. That's where you're going to start to see the healing, is saying, you know what, let me die to myself. Let me take up my cross. Let me look at myself. Instead of pointing fingers at everybody else, let me look at myself and see what I can do to fix this problem, as opposed to telling everybody else what they need to do to fix the problem.
Man, I couldn't have said it any better. That's my little brother, man. I love it, man. Listen, that is why we must heal. I want everyone to join us, because this whole deal is called Let Us Heal. I'm doing this new IG series, Let Us Heal, because we're going across America with this Heal America tour, believing that though these issues are real, they're serious, and they're formidable. We don't take them lightly. We believe that there is a healing coming, and it happens with these kinds of healers, just like this. And man, I am excited. I am, and I'm ready. I cannot wait. Next week, we're going to have a great time. I do want people to know about your Beyond the Barriers, the Breaking the Barriers. I want them to know what you do, and give them your website and your podcast and all of that, so they'll know how to follow you. Because just so y'all know, when you really listen at him, he is a breath of fresh air, but he does not placate and play around. It's true heart. He works 40 hours real, as a police officer current, and then does all these things for schools, and then goes around the country. Then he's like, I'm just that's just my call. So I'm so proud of him. But tell us how we can make sure we stay connected to you and what you're doing.
So please follow me. Obviously my Instagram handle is Breaking Barriers United. I have a podcast that's called It's Needed Podcast, which we're going to have Bishop Omar on. We have a YouTube channel, Breaking Barriers United. We have the Facebook, Breaking Barriers United. And I do got to say one thing, though. Although I dress fresh, I don't dress fresher than Bishop Omar. I got to say that one. I don't know if I could top that one, real talk.
Well, we all try to get in.
Oh man, hey, and I want to give a shout out to some of the people on here real quick before I leave, man. Leon, I see you. Artie, I see you. My boy Tad Prescott. Tad is really from Dallas, Texas right now. Tad is leading
at Bishop Omar Jahwar on all social media platforms. You can follow us, follow him, just join the movement. My brother, thank you. You are amazing. I can't wait. And be careful, and make sure, man, that you just stay up. We love you truly, man. I pray for you
always.
on my every day. So just know that, man. And I appreciate your shout. I love you, sir.
Love you too. Love you too, Bishop, man. I'll see you next week.
All right. I'll see you next week, man.
All right, cool.
All right, peace.